Our young people are being told that free speech doesn't matter, due process, it doesn't matter. Just get Trump. Get Trump, get Trump, get Trump at whatever the cost. Free speech, pff, due process, nah. I've got the screenshot here of the Fulton County DA's docket. The state of Georgia versus Donald John Trump. It has a case number, it has a case status. The case status, it says open. That's what the status says. The document is dated August 14th, 2023, yesterday. The charges include violations of the state RICO Act, conspiracy to commit forgery in the first degree, filing false documents, conspiracy to commit impersonating a public officer, among other charges. There's about 13 of them, all related, of course, to the alleged attempts to overturn the 2020 election results in Georgia. The investigation into the alleged efforts by Trump to pressure Governor Brian Kemp and Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to overturn the 2020 election results. That's what this is all about, that phone call that he made in Georgia. And they say that there was a plan to use alternatives, an alternative slate of electors. And this has been ongoing since 2021. This is nothing new out of Fulton County, Georgia. They've been going after Donald Trump in Fulton County, Georgia for a long time, since 2021. The DA is looking to seek indictments against at least 12 other people, alleging that Trump and his allies, they all coordinated together, and they attempted to unlawfully alter the outcome of the 2020 elections in Georgia. Okay, Fulton County. So there's a document here, and it's outlining all of these charges against Donald Trump in Fulton County. And this is interesting because the DA's office posted this document online and then deleted it without any kind of explanation. You want to know why they deleted it? Because the grand jury in charge of the case didn't even yet vote on the matter. So how did the Fulton County, Georgia DA have the charges before the grand jury even voted? They're still taking testimony, this grand jury is. You've tampered with the jury, Fulton County DA, Bonnie Willis. You've tampered with the jury, and you've told them that you're planning on or charging Trump with all of these different charges. These all felonies. I think they're all felonies. I think there were 13 charges. 12 of them are felonies, one of them being a serious felony. So you've told the jury what you're planning on charging them, but they haven't even come to a vote yet. We're going to make sure you stay on the jury, and we're going to make sure you vote properly, the way I want you to vote. This is the answer we require. And you're going to give it to us, jury. You're going to give us the answer we want. You've tampered with the jury. Here's the problem. It's not supposed to work that way. First, you solicit testimony, and then the grand jury votes. They send what they come up with to the DA, and then the DA creates their charges or makes charges based off of the recommendation of the grand jury. It's very simple. And Reuters, they were the ones who blew this all up. They pulled the docket, they posted it, and I've got the receipts from Fulton County. Bad things are happening in Fulton County, Georgia. This is a banana republic. Don't you forget it. This is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Kat Peterson. Today is Tuesday, 6:09 a.m. We've got so much to get to. I am live in studio, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Rumble. And today I'm sporting one of my favorite shirts. It's called, well, I got it from Rooted Apparel Company. Their website is in the description of the YouTube video. Be sure to go subscribe to my channel, Kat Peterson 929. You can also find Rooted Apparel in the YouTube description of this video. So go get some Jesus is King shirts. That's what I'm wearing today. Jesus is King. He is indeed. So go support Rooted Apparel. They're great folks. Okay. And they're local. And one thing about Rooted that I really love is that this is a company, and what they're trying to do is in a world of uncertainty, I just told you, right? All of this crazy with the indictment surrounding Donald Trump. Despite all of that uncertainty, we can remain certain of one thing, that Jesus is king. Jesus is king. And go check out Rooted Apparel Company. They're good friends. Okay, so what are we going to be talking about today? First, Donald Trump sending this very heartfelt message to the victims of the Maui wildfires. Now, I've told you before, I've got a friend, she has her son there, and they actually ran into the ocean to avoid getting burned. They managed to not get burned too severely, but there were these big fireballs that were blasted from the sky, like these big ash balls that were blasted from the sky and into the ocean. So they did suffer burns. So people who were running into the ocean, I'm sure you've seen the videos, they still got burned badly. Uh, I mean, it's just so tragic. And Donald Trump, he sends out this heartfelt message to the victims of this deadly, one of the deadliest, I think it's been a century since they've had a wildfire like this. And he slammed Joe Biden, Donald Trump did, for his response. Joe Biden said no comment, and he smiled when he was asked for his reaction about about the Maui wildfires. So we're going to get to that next. The overdose deaths have increased, and I'm picking this specific county, although this is happening in every single county around the nation, but I'm selecting this specific county because it's the worst. So just know that this is the worst county, I think, in the nation when it comes to overdose deaths. They've seen an increase since 2022, 65% overdose deaths in Seattle's King County. So this is King County, Washington, Seattle, King County. So we're going to get into the details here because the Seattle Fire Department, they're saying that they often have to treat the same patients multiple times a day for opioid overdoses, a lot of them being fentanyl. It's tragic. It is tragic. A lot of times they treat the same people. That's what they're saying. Multiple times a day, same people overdosing in the streets, and they have to go out there and Narcan, I think, is one of those drugs that counteract the overdose. Okay. Then later, I've got to tell you about this YouTuber. She's such a little whiny brat. She's a YouTuber and she's crying racism because she was told she couldn't film her music video unannounced in the middle of a Target. The humanity! I'm telling you, how racist is that? You were told that you couldn't do something that clearly is against Target's policy. You can't just go in and start filming yourself for a music video. It just doesn't work that way. All right, let's start here. Donald Trump sending this heartfelt message to all of these Americans in Maui, which this wildfire has claimed the death toll is continuing to rise. I think this morning I heard 93, at least 90 Americans dead due to this wildfire in Maui. Now, former president is sending his condolences to the residents of this Hawaiian island, and he's urging the Biden administration to assist. So I'm going to play a little bit of Donald Trump's heartfelt message here on the Morning Buzz. You can see the video, his statement on the Morning Buzz on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Here we go. Let's take a listen.
Sympathy and warmest regards to the people of Hawaii, and specifically all of those who have been so gravely and irreparably hurt by the tragedy of the wildfires in Maui, something the likes of which have seldom been seen anywhere at any time. The death caused by this catastrophic event will be far worse than ever expected now that houses and cars in other areas are being inspected. The sad thing is, it should never have happened. Our government was not prepared, and very importantly, the aftermath is going very poorly, with the governor of the island wanting to do nothing but blame it on global warming and other things that just happened to pop into his head. When asked about it today, as he was getting into a car, perhaps coming home from the beach, where he has been spending a great deal of time, crooked Joe Biden, the most incompetent president in the history of our country, with a laugh and a smile, said he had no comment on the death and the tragedy. To say no comment is oftentimes fine, but to be smiling when you say it, especially against such a tragedy as this, is absolutely horrible and unacceptable. It is a disgraceful thing that Joe Biden refuses to help or comment on the tragedy in Maui.
It is. It's a tragic thing. And I know I've been getting a lot of questions about this and how it all kind of started, the fire. We're going to get to that. But Trump, he slammed Joe Biden there. When Joe Biden was asked about this situation, Joe Biden said no comment. The president of the United States was riding around on his bicycle on the beach while the people of Hawaii dug through the ashes of their shattered community. This is one of the most beautiful places on earth, and it's been reduced to cinders. And this dork, Joe Biden, is on vacation? Deadliest U.S. wildfire since 1918. This is huge. And like I said, the fire started, it's power lines. So power lines contributed significantly. Now, I am going to take a stab in the dark here. I am not by any means an expert or scientist, but what I have noticed is a lot of these green weenie mandates have caused uh, natural disasters. Let me put it that way, or have contributed to natural disasters. You're like, Kat, what do you mean? Well, controlled burns is something that the left hates. They don't like controlled burns. They think that that emits all kinds of carbon into the air, and they're big mad whenever we do controlled burns. Controlled burns are actually really good for the environment, and it prevents things like this dry brush. It prevents things like dead trees from igniting and causing a massive wildfire. I'd imagine it was very dry, that there were a lot of there was a lot of dry brush there when these power lines came down and ignited some brush, and there was a lot of wind because it was a hurricane. So the power company is actually facing a class action lawsuit. Three law firms have filed this lawsuit against this Hawaiian uh, electric company. So they filed this lawsuit, and it's because what the power company should have done was turn off the power, or at least decreased the power. They were warned that there was going to be hurricanes because it's hurricane season, and they said that you have to bring down the power so that way if these power lines come down, it won't start a fire. Well, the electric company allegedly didn't do that. So, according to a local Hawaiian news outlet that obtained the complaint, the company Hawaiian Electric supplies 95% of the state's power and inexcusably kept their power lines energized during a forecasted high fire dangerous conditions. So there's a hurricane out there, and they said, "Hey, turn off your power lines, bring them down, because if they go down, then it's going to start a fire." Like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if they stopped doing controlled burns. The governor there is a hack, Joe Biden hack. A lot of it's a very leftist state. Okay, so I wouldn't be shocked if they have a lot of these green weenie mandates in place where you can't do controlled burns. Controlled burns, good for the environment, and it keeps things like wildfires from happening. I don't know. I haven't looked into the state laws surrounding controlled burns, specifically even Maui's laws around controlled burns. But if I had to guess, they're against them because it's a leftist state. Joe Biden did announce that he's going to be sending like $700 per household, like that has been impacted by the disaster. Just pray, 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 pray. Joe Biden has yet to make a verbal statement like Donald Trump just did. He had this very heartfelt message and offered his condolences. That's all Joe Biden has to do. Just pretend to be presidential, pretend to be an actual caring human being. He hasn't made a verbal statement. He has made some statements on Twitter. We are going to take a break. This is the morning buzz. I've got so much to get to. Overdoses increasing 65% in 2023 over 2022. And in July, EMS crews, just in the month of July, EMS crews in this specific county, it's one of the worst counties for fentanyl overdoses. They responded to 760 opioid overdoses, which is insanity. 760 people just in the month of July. We're going to be back here on the Morning Buzz. Text in at 309-451-9299. You can also see me live in the studio, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Twitter. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. I'm going to get to your comments here. Ezekiel MAGA is absolutely a disgrace. Traitors, you whiny followers are in free fall and just sound so dumb. What are you talking about? Because I literally laid out for you, Ezekiel, what was going down in Fulton County, Georgia. Like literally what's coming. What are they going to indict Donald Trump for next? Are they going to indict him for having too many indictments? Are they going to indict him for the for not moving the iceberg that sunk the Titanic? Are they going to indict him because the McDonald's ice cream machine is always broken down? Like, what is or what are we doing here? We keep indicting this guy over crap, and not to mention the Georgia Fulton County DA screwed the pooch and definitely messed up here because she came out with the charges prior to the jury, the grand jury, uh, even making their recommendation on what kind of charges there should be. So that's not how this works in the United States. That's called banana republic type stuff where she comes out and she practically was bullying the jury into going with her charges and going with their charges instead of waiting for the grand jury to come up with their recommendation. What do you mean we sound dumb? That is how the process goes. First, the grand jury gets all of their testimony, they solicit testimony, they come up with a recommendation, then they give their recommendation to the DA, then the DA creates the charges and indicts the criminal. But that's not what happened here. The DA created the charges while the grand jury was still soliciting testimony. That is banana republic. So Ezekiel, if you can have some sort of instead of, name calling whiny followers, you guys all sound dumb. Can we at least agree that that's not how the process should go and we shouldn't like just trample all over due process because due process is, oh, I don't know, important? And our own governor here in the state of Illinois has said that this case, the January 6th indictment case, the charges brought forward by Jack Smith, our very own governor has said that that case has everything to do with you have the right to free speech, but you don't have the right to lie, which is not true. You do have the right to lie in the United States. Okay. And now I get it. Some situations you can't lie under oath. Things like that. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about Donald Trump having a thought and speaking that thought out loud at a speech. In Jack Smith's own indictment, he says that Donald Trump had the right to claim that the 2020 election was stolen on January 6th. But he's indicting him anyway. His indictment is garbage. The third paragraph, I encourage you, Ezekiel, to go to the third paragraph of the indictment and read it. That in and of itself is just a plain example of hypocrisy. He says that Donald Trump had the right to go there and to speak publicly about how he thought, falsely claimed, that the 2020 election was stolen, that he had the right to do that. But yet he's indicting him anyway, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense because that's what the entire indictment is based off of. And that's not me saying it. That's your Democrat governor, JB, saying that that's what the indictment is all about. It's about how he didn't have the right to lie. And this isn't new. You can look at history. Jack Smith has gone after Republicans. He's gone after even Democrats, Democrats that aren't establishment. He's gone after political opposition and the Supreme Court. In this one case, Bob McDonnell, who is a Virginia governor, he was running, I think, for president. And what Jack Smith had done was kind of try to do these, I think it was bribery charges or something like that. And they were all trumped up charges. And the US Supreme Court practically laughed him out of the court and said, hey, using your prosecutor power in this way is scary, and it's not good for the separation of powers. This is damaging for our separation of powers here in the United States. And it was like an 8-0 decision, that case that Jack Smith had against political opposition. So there you have it, folks. I mean, this isn't anything new. They've gone after the political opposition before, and it's not right. There's things called free speech and due process, and we need to make sure that those remain intact. So, Ezekiel, again, you can hate Donald Trump all you want, but we need to agree that there should be due process and that there should be freedom of speech, because God forbid you ever find yourself as a defendant in some sort of case. And if you weren't afforded the same due process, or if you weren't afforded the right to free speech, I'm sure you would have a much different reaction. So just because Donald Trump is in the hot seat, really think about that. I'm going to be back here in just a second. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Our young people, they're being told that free speech doesn't matter. Due process, that thing? Oh, no. We don't have that here in this country. All that matters is that we get Donald Trump. Jack Smith, this indictment is clearly political prosecution and persecution. He is going after his political opponent like he's done in the past. Look up Bob McDonnell, look up that Supreme Court decision. The Supreme Court practically laughed Jack Smith out of the courtroom and said, "What are you doing, dude? You can't use your your prosecuting powers in this way. This is a blatant breach of the separation of powers. We have separation of powers here in the United States. You can't bring cases like this to us." And then they voted 8-0 on it. This has happened before. And now we've got the Fulton County DA docket. I've got the receipts, dude. I've got the receipts. She posted the charges prior to the grand jury even finishing up hearing their testimony, soliciting testimony. The grand jury wasn't even done. And then she posts these charges, and you're thinking to yourself, wait a second, that's tampering with the jury. You've tampered with the jury. You've told them what you plan on charging Trump with prior to the grand jury even voting. It's like they said, we're going to make sure you stay on this jury. We're going to make sure you vote properly. This is the answer we require. And you're going to give it. You're going to give it to us, jury. You're going to give us this answer that I've posted. And they know that they were in the wrong. The Fulton County DA's office know that they were in the wrong because they retracted that document. They retracted the document that they posted that outlined all of these felony charges against Donald Trump in Fulton County Jury. We're going to get to it here coming up in just a little bit. We did talk about Trump sending out this heartfelt message to victims of these Maui fires. I went through how those fires started. I kind of gave you some speculation as to why those fires really escalated. I think it's because they don't do controlled burns. I have to look that up. But controlled burns are really, really good, but leftists hate them for some odd reason because they're not true environmentalists. And, something similar happened here in the state of Illinois, right here in central Illinois. Now, I can't prove it, right, because I'm not a scientist or an expert, but, I'm just going to talk logically like a human person, like a human being. I have a brain, and I can raid. So no till. That's something that has been pushed on Illinois farmers for quite some time. No till, or uh, like it, because they're afraid of the methane or like the carbon emissions that happens when you till up the land. And you guys remember that big old dust bowl on 55? I think it killed near 50 people, and it was tragic. I think it could have been prevented had people not forced Illinois farmers in these fields to not till. Tilling keeps it from getting dusty. And I mean, this is just logic. I'm just kind of talking logically. I'm sorry if that offends anybody, but come on, your green weenie policies are actually hurting people, so stop it. This YouTuber, we're gonna get to her in just a little bit. She's crying racism because, believe it or not, she couldn't film her music video unannounced in the middle of a Target. Duh, that's not racism, honey. You just can't do that because that's Target's policy. You can't just film a music video whenever you want, anywhere you want. This is a private business. So we're gonna get to her. But first, I do want to talk a little bit about these overdoses in Seattle. This is called King County, and I chose this one because the numbers are truly disturbing, and I think this is one of the worst counties in the nation when it comes to overdose deaths. So, new data has revealed that the opioid overdoses have increased 65% in the last year in Washington's most populous county. That's King County. Overdose deaths, they already are on track to just surpass last year's high records. Like last year, it was a record high. This year, it's going to surpass it. So, Seattle and King County Public Health data shows us that the first responders they go out on these calls for these opioid overdoses, and those calls have increased 65% in 2023 over 2022. And in July alone, I told you the EMS crews they had to respond to over 700 opioid overdose calls. So that's just in the month of July, 760 calls that they had to respond to. So from January to the end of July, first responders answered over or like near 5,000 overdose calls. And then you compare that to last year's around the same time frame, January to July, you're looking at about 3,000. So it's increased by about 2,000 overdose calls from 2022. The Seattle Fire Department, they came out and they said that they treat the same patients multiple times a day. So these are the same people getting high in the streets, and they go out there multiple times a day on the same day. A lot of the times, they'll go out there and they will have to pump people full of Narcan. 808 people have died of overdoses so far in 2023. This is just very simple solutions to this, and we're going to get to the solutions here. But that's on its way to surpass 2022's record of 1,001 overdose deaths. So far in 2023, we've got 808 people dying of overdoses in just this county. So this is really quite tragic. And things have gotten so bad in this county, they've actually launched a campaign. And what they're doing, they're having these teenagers carry this drug. It's not Narcan, it's something else. I think it's naloxone or something like that. And what it does is it counteracts the overdose. So you can, you know, jab a needle into somebody and save them. But there's teenagers running around with little buttons, like buttons that they wear on their shirt, and the button says "I carry naloxone or something." So wow, you've got teens out in the street almost acting as, I mean, nurses, first responders. They're starting to equip teenagers through this program. It's called the Washington State Healthcare Authority, and they launched this program encouraging these teenagers to carry this drug that counteracts the overdose. So, get this. You're probably wondering to yourself, well, how does it get that bad? You're reading off all of these numbers, Kat. How does it get that bad? Well, I'll tell you. The Seattle City Council And make no mistake, I wouldn't doubt that that's going to come down to normal. It's going to be in every Democrat run city because for some odd reason, they love drugs. Like, did they not do the DARE program? I don't understand why leftists love drugs so much and they think that it's wrong to criminalize drugs. Drugs are bad and it's not wrong to criminalize them. So here we have the Seattle City Council, and basically what they did was decriminalize public drug use. They also decriminalized possession of drugs. Here's a council member. His name is Andrew Lewis. And, this is just a classic example of, your local council members really do affect what happens in your communities. They have a lot of power. So, a little bit about Andrew Lewis, this guy in Seattle. He's a Seattle council member now, but he was a prosecutor. And he, like many DAs in these blue cities, released offenders and it released uh, a very, like, repeat offenders. He'd release these people, he'd not keep them in prison. And now he's the reason the vote to criminalize drugs in Seattle failed. So there was a vote. They were trying to criminalize drugs. And this is what this hack had to say during the city council meeting, trying to, I don't know, I guess he was trying to somehow justify him voting not to criminalize drugs. I don't see how you do that, but here we go. Let's take a listen.
With the former mayor to fully fund Just Care. And we removed encampments. We resolved encampment locations in the downtown center of this city in a way that centered everybody's interests in our parks and our open spaces without the need to criminalize open public use. We are working on the Third Avenue project right now on Third Avenue that is helping to connect people with services, that is doing a census of the people who have underlying substance addiction problems. I am not necessarily opposed to incorporating the statute into our SMC. And I was prepared to do this. I think it is generally proper for us to do it.
So he says that there's no need to criminalize drugs, and we're just going to do all of these fun programs where these people get help. Well, it's not working, dude. So they actually, in June, the city council rejected legislation that would have empowered the city attorney to prosecute drug possession and public drug use. So they rejected all of that. They said, nope, we're not going to criminalize it. And I'm kind of curious. Numbers don't lie, so I have a feeling, and I'm just going to take a stab in the dark here, that the reason why July has seen over 700 people overdose, 700 overdose cases in just 1 month, and this is a big month for this county. I'm going to take a stab in the dark. I'm going to say it's probably because you guys voted to not criminalize drugs. Very simple solutions. Okay. People think that there's these big solutions and there's we got to combat it, the root causes. No, it's close up the border, stop the supply. Then people who are in possession of things like fentanyl, you lock them up. And yes, you get them into rehab programs after they've been prosecuted and imprisoned for a very long time. You do not use drugs publicly. I don't get it. Like, this is very good. I feel so silly sometimes when I say things out loud. I'm like, well, yeah, that makes sense. But here's this guy with law degrees and he's a city council member, and this guy doesn't know. Like, somebody should probably tell him. All right, I'm going to be back here on the Morning Buzz. This YouTuber, she's saying that it's racist that she was told that she couldn't film her music video in the middle of a Target. Yeah, I would say that that's probably against their policy. I'll be back with that story. Be sure to visit on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. I've got exclusive content for you on the stream. Smash the like button if you are watching. Send out a care. Why don't you react to this video and send a care reaction for those victims in Maui. We're going to get to Jacqueline. President Donald Trump has always been a true humanitarian. We have seen how his heart has put him into action as long ago back as 40 years. He's always been there for his fellow Americans. Yeah, what was it? 9/11. I will never forget Donald Trump, even when he wasn't president, it was 9/11 and I wasn't around, right? But there's videos out there of him sifting through the rubble and being there for the first responders. So he's always been a true humanitarian and has always been um, kind. And it's very clear why that is. He's a Christian. Okay, and he speaks about God all of the time, and he prays with people, and that's if you want my true take on it, it's because he's a Christian. Joe Biden isn't, despite what he tells everyone. I'm a Catholic. No, you're not, Joe. No, you're not, Joe. And Joe Biden, I do think that that's good. I don't think that it's enough. $700 per household. um, he's sending these, checks in the mail. He hasn't given a verbal statement, so that's disappointing. He's out there. He's been on vacation. I think a third of his time in office, riding his bicycle on the beach, and it's like while you're riding your bicycle on the beach, these people are literally sifting through rubble to try to find picture frames and try to find food. They're trying to find their friends, their family members who might be dead in the ashes, and you're riding your bike on the beach. Donald Trump would never. I'm sorry, but he just wouldn't do that. So did did MAGA just release the crack? And I have no idea what you're talking about, dude. If you're watching right now, go ahead and smash the like button. A lot of you are asking about my shirt. Yes, I'm wearing Jesus is King. You guys can go ahead and get your Rooted apparel. Rooted apparel. Their website is in the description of this video. Their shirts are super cheap. And this is really cozy, comfortable, and I'm a big t-shirt girl. I'm never I've always been kind of a tomboy. I drive a truck. I like motorcycles. I go fishing and things like that. So I'm not much of like a blouse person. I've always worn like t-shirts and sneakers. That's just who I am. And this is like the coziest t-shirt I've ever worn. It's not like itchy. It's nice and like fits very nice. But it says Jesus is King. And the really cool thing about Rooted Apparel is um with inflation getting more and more out of control, Rooted Apparel is making it way more affordable for you to spread faith through clothing and engaging with others in gospel conversation. So my favorite thing about wearing shirts like this is that it always sparks up a conversation when I'm at the gym or if I'm in the grocery store. It can spark up a conversation about the gospel or about Jesus, and you can tell people about Jesus and what he's done in your life. And I'm always looking for people, looking to tell people about my salvation and how I came to Christ because I just think it's the best story ever. um, so go ahead, get your apparel at Rooted Apparel Company. They have their website in the description of this video. Jesus is King. With all of the crazy going on in the world, we can know that Jesus is King. And I've been praying for the victims in the Maui fire. As you guys know, we know somebody personally who has a son who's over there. Um, and just seeing what she's gone through is sad. Just hearing it, and we're not super close to this woman or anything like that, but just hearing about what she's gone through is tragic. And these are Americans. Like, make no mistake that these are Americans, not, fake American, not Ukrainians in the 51st state of America. But these are actual Americans who are going through something, and they desperately need help. And so good on Donald Trump for sending out this heartfelt message. I hope that those in Maui take a listen to it. I'm back. Hold on. A left-wing magazine is demanding that you eat tofu instead of delicious steak. Now, I have a really interesting take on this because I was vegetarian for a couple of years and I did not I like somehow I managed to gain all kinds of weight. Somehow I managed to get sick a lot. It was just not good for my health. And now I'm sure that there's a way. I know of actually my best friend, she's a vegetarian and has been a vegetarian for 7 years. My grandfather was a vegetarian. I have a lot of vegetarians, family friends. There's a way to do it to get enough protein and not to be sick. I just wasn't that way. And once I started eating steak, everything turned out to be fine. So, uh, I am a ex-vegetarian and I am very happy to be eating meat again. But we have this leftist magazine who is out there trying to force tofu on you and they want to get rid of delicious steak. And make no mistake, see what I did there? They are going to be coming for your steak and regulating red meat. I promise you that is coming. And they've already been trying to do it in kind of weird ways, like, for example, um, banning gas stoves. They've been trying because a steak over a gas stove is just so much better than electric. I'm sorry, but it is. But they are going to make steak and beef public enemy number one. I promise you. And The Economist, which is this progressive magazine, is calling for regulation. And I wouldn't be shocked if they actually do regulate meat in some sort of way. So get ready for that story coming up in just a little bit. Also, I am going to dig into this story, this YouTuber. This is a bizarre story. I just don't even understand how some of these kids just feel that entitled to go off and do something like this. So her name is Baby Storm. That's what she goes by on social media, on YouTube, and she shows up at this Target with a full-on dance crew, and they start to film a music video, and security told her she couldn't do that. They were like, you can't do this. And if you don't stop, we're going to have to call the police. So that's what the Target police or the Target employee said. The security guard, he has significantly less melanin in his skin than Baby Storm does. So you can probably imagine where this goes next. Uh, This girl, she tweets out, she goes, "This racist Target employee called the police on us for dancing in Target, so we danced anyway." I'm going to have to take a break, but you're going to want to come back and listen to this video of Baby Storm doing her music video and then all of a sudden being interrupted by these Target employees saying, "Hey, y'all can't be here filming a music video in the middle of the store." So I've got the video here next. You're going to want to watch it on the stream. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. This is Kat Peterson on the Morning Buzz. Okay, also, just a hot take. I don't know what this song is about. I really don't care, but the outfit attire is just not it's not attractive. Like, there's a way to do music videos that aren't weird like this. It's just not for me. Maybe it is for other people. I just find this disturbing and it's kind of scary. And I am going to fully disclose that I do not do horror movies. I don't do weird gothic films. I just find it bizarre. I try to stay far, far away from that stuff. But this is just so crazy that this girl is sitting here crying racism, but she went into Target unannounced, didn't warn anybody, didn't get a permit, nothing like that. And she's just trying to do this entire music video in the middle of Target, and you just can't do that. Um, Gonna get to some of your comments here. Be sure to comment. One thing that I want to play a game. If you're watching right now, go ahead, smash that like button. Share this out with your normie friends. Don't forget to subscribe. Cat Peterson 929 on YouTube. Let's play a game. What is Donald Trump going to be indicted for next? Here's mine. Here's mine. Trump is going to be indicted for having too many indictments. Can we keep the game going? I've got one more. Trump is going to be indicted over the McDonald's ice cream machine being broken down. Trump is going to be indicted for stealing or for sneaking candy into a movie theater. Like, what would they not like? What are he's going to be indicted for jaywalking? He's going to be indicted for all kinds of things. I'm telling you, this is just the beginning. I'm sure there's even more indictments that they're cooking up. So, and the American people see what's going on. They see what's going on. They see that this is Banana Republic. We have Jack Smith going after his political opposition again, 2.0. This isn't anything new for Jack Smith. Then we have this Fulton County DA who's out there and she's trying to put these charges out there and publish these charges prior to the grand jury actually being finished with hearing testimony. That is big no-no because the way the process works is that the grand jury hears, they solicit testimony, they hear the testimony, they come up with a recommendation, they give their recommendation to the DA, then the DA says what they're going to be charging Donald Trump with. But the way this played out was the DA posted these charges prior to the grand jury finishing up their deliberation and creating a recommendation. Like they're still hearing testimony at this point, and she publishes her charges. That is tampering with the jury, and that is Banana Republic type stuff, and it's wrong. So if you're watching, go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your normie friends. We are going to be talking about this YouTuber. So she's in this Target and she's crying racism because the security guard approaches her and says, "Hey, little girl, you cannot be in here filming a music video. That is not how this works. We have a specific policy about this. You're causing not only a fire hazard, but you're causing a big disturbance." Now, there have been people who have done this correctly. Actually, a pro-Trump rapper, Christian rapper, he made a song. It was called Boycott Target, and he actually filmed inside the Target. So this Christian rapper, you know what he did? He went through all the proper channels with this private company, Target. And I like how you point this out, Jeff. Target is private property. You can't just go in and video whatever you want. This is not a racist issue. It's actually trespassing if you didn't ask permission. Yes. So people have gone and asked for permission to shoot YouTube videos and music videos in Target. A Christian rapper has done that. In fact, you have to pay royalties to a company if you're going to be using their location. So, like, there's a lot of things that go into this. A Christian rapper actually who made that song Boycott Target, and he was a pro-Trump rapper, he actually went through all the proper channels. So it can be done. She just didn't want to do it because she thought she was entitled. Baby Storm. So she shows up at this private company, private property, Target, and she shows up with an entire dance crew. Like there's probably 30 people here, and they're trying to film this music video. And the security guard says, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! You can't do this. This is against our policy." And the security guard, of course, had significantly less melanin in his skin than Baby Storm, this little girl. I call her little girl because she's an idiot, but like she's probably my age, 24, something like that. If I had to guess, in her 20s. She's supposedly, apparently, like this up and coming singer. I've never heard of her, but let's take a listen to the video of her trying to film this music video in the store. Here we go.
My music.
Cool.
Hey, if we all just start and multiple people record, they can't block it. Right. We can sing it too. Okay.
Oh, I gotta turn that off. I'm so sorry that I had to make your ears bleed. That song is terrible. I guess it's called "City is a Graveyard" or "This City is a Graveyard." So if you heard there in the video, the security guard says this is actually a safety hazard, and it is a fire hazard. You cannot have 30 people just doing a music video in the middle of the store. And she had shot the video in an actual graveyard, I guess, prior to this music video footage, and she got a lot of backlash because a lot of people felt that that was classless. Yeah, I don't know. Filming your stupid little music video in an actual graveyard probably peeved a lot of people off. Have some respect for the dead, right? And I'm not sure what Target has to do with the lyrics of this song. I also really don't care all that much. But the way things work professionally, you need to get permission before using somebody else's business, place of business for profit. That's just the way life goes. People know this. And we actually have a Christian rapper out there. He dropped this awesome song. It was like number one. It skyrocketed on iTunes for quite some time when we were all boycotting Target. And he did a music video with him inside of the Target. And of course, he set up production, he set up film crews after hours. He actually made sure the store was closed to the public and you even pay the store for their time. Okay, so this Christian rapper who did this song called Boycott Target, he filmed it in a Target. And, you pay the store for their time. And either Target forgot to tell the security guard that this was happening, or this entitled, Baby Storm singer felt that she could show up and do whatever she wanted. I'm gonna guess that it was the latter, okay? Baby Storm showed up and she was like, "Oh, I can do whatever I want. I can shoot this music video right here in the middle of the store." There's no racial component here. She cried racism, okay? It's because what she said on her Twitter, she goes, "This racist Target employee called the police on us for dancing in Target, so we danced anyway." No, you were filming a straight up music video with 30 plus people. I love how she kind of like downplayed it too. She was like, "We were just dancing in the Target." No, 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 no. You were trying to profit off of a private business, and you can't do that. Uh, what's worse is that this security guard who approached her, he's probably going to get fired. After all, this is Target, a publicly traded global company, and not letting this double marginalized person, black and a woman, do whatever she feels like isn't equity, and it's very problematic. Okay, so likely I wouldn't be shocked if the security guard loses his job over this, because it is Target. I'm going to be back here in just a little bit for the 7 o'clock hour. Keep it right here. This is the Morning Buzz. Hey, if you're watching right now, go ahead and smash that like button. I so do appreciate you tuning in. Share this out with your normie friends. Now, we're going to get to a few things. A left wing magazine is demanding that you eat tofu instead of delicious steak for all of the usual reasons. Rolling Stone, they lead the expected media attack against Oliver Anthony for his awesome song, Richmond, North of Richmond. So I am going to be getting to all of these stories here on the Morning Buzz. Mike Coolidge, we are live on Facebook, Rumble, Twitter, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to Kat Peterson 929 if you want more content. Visit cities929.com. Mike Coolidge, thanks so much for joining me. I'm so excited. We're on a break right now, and we're going to be getting to this tofu story because that's out of The Economist this morning. The magazine, Progressive magazine, trying to say that they want to regulate red meat. Oh, okay. And Kamala Harris, if you remember, I think it was about a couple of years ago, she came out and she said, "Yeah, we're going to have to look into regulating some, carbon emissions when it comes to, red meat processing plants or whatever." And she, Kamala Harris did, where she was sitting there and she goes, "Okay, okay, okay." So she was saying nothing, but saying so much at the same time. So
Yeah.
we're that, and then we'll talk a Trump indictment.
Yeah, regulation of everything. That's the reflex that all Democrats have, and leftists. Let's all be miserable equally. Let's eliminate anything that gives us pleasure in life. These climate activists in, I think it was not Hawaii, because that's crazy stuff going on there, but I was just consuming it on Twitter this morning. These young climate activists won some award, or got some. I'll have to look it up. We're not on the air yet, right? This is the
Stream.
the
Yeah,
stream
is
on
the
this. Yeah,
stream.
I gotta
Yep.
look it up. But it was such a great tweet. It was these climate activists, these like high schoolers, won some legal right to have certain this area, this area where people fish and all that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
eliminated from any sort of like energy production that they deemed, these high schoolers deemed was, it would prevent them from fishing and whatnot. Meanwhile, this particular thing would have created tons of jobs and made people's lives better, blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
I don't know the details of it, or I'd have to look it up. But the point is, anytime you have a situation where something or some law makes people feel good,
Yep.
the left is for that. But if it hurts people's standard of living, they're also for that. And if it makes things terrible, like what's happening in cities with, feces on the streets and tents everywhere, as long as it makes people feel good, when they write a piece of legislation, that rules the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we are going to be back. I'm going to start out the show, and then we'll talk a little bit about the banning of red meat, and then we're going to get into this Trump indictment, another one. I feel like what's next? Is Trump going to be indicted because he stole candy or snuck candy into a movie theater? Like what else is
Kat,
next?
these listings of this one, these acts that listed in the jury, they're that trivial. I mean, it isn't much worse. Like, the stealing of candy in the theater would be worse than some of the things he's
Facing.
tweets, speeches, phone conversation, like all of this ridiculous stuff. Talk about throwing spaghetti at the wall to see if something sticks. Yeah, I can't wait to talk about this Georgia thing. This is as banana republic-y as you can possibly get.
Banana to the fourth degree.
Yeah.
I'll be back here in just a second. You're listening to the Morning Buzz.
I got to look up this tofu thing.
I regret to inform you, the left wants your meat again. They want your red meat. They don't want you to enjoy a delicious steak, slow cooked with a generous amount of salt, pepper, maybe even some rosemary, cooked to perfection, crusty on each side. And here's the number one rule. This is the number one rule. If you enjoy something, progressives, they want to ruin it or take it away from you. Meat has been public enemy number one for about a year or two, I would say. And this leftist magazine, The Economist, they said that they want to regulate it, not unlike coal. Coal, the most effective source of energy. So they want to regulate coal. They also want to regulate red meat. I'm just going to read it to you. Instead of eating any red meat, cut it out and replace it with tofu. Beef emits 31 times more CO2 per calorie of food than tofu does. By cooking so many cows, humans are cooking themselves too. That's what this magazine reads. Joining me here to react, Mike Coolidge, the Patriot Power Plug. He joins me Tuesdays. Mike Coolidge ran for Congress. He also is a longtime conservative activist. He served in the military. And he's joining me now to react to this. Plus, we're going to talk about the Trump indictment, this Fulton County DA actually posting the charges before the grand jury was even finished soliciting testimony. We're going to get to that. But first, I wanted to get your reaction, your thoughts, Mike Coolidge, on The Economist publishing this article.
I'm trying to look it up, a delicious ribeye steak in Streeter this weekend, one of the best I've ever had. And I love steak. And there's very few things more American than red meat and steak. And it's good for you, too. I watch these YouTube videos from doctors who talk about the best meat or the best foods for you and the worst foods for you. And red meat is good for you. Yes, like everything else, in moderation. And it's so essential to a diet. Yes, you can survive off of not eating red meat, but yeah, you hit it on the head in the intro, saying the left, anything that makes people's lives better, or they'll do anything they can to make themselves feel good with a regulation that might drop our temperatures by a fraction of a point over 100 years if they can stop red-blooded Americans from eating red meat. It's silly as always.
And, they've already, and I have been telling people, they're going to try to figure out a sneaky way to do this. And I think that this is coming next. Now, it's going to be tricky because that's going to outrage a lot of people if they were to regulate meat in some sort of way. But you're already kind of seeing it through this regulating of ovens and what restaurants can use to make their food. And I'm assuming that they are going to be coming for the meat next. They're not really even hiding it anymore because now they're using The Economist here to push this narrative out there. And we actually have here in the town of Normal, I'll tell you, Mike, our Normal mayor said, screw being economically feasible. What we're going to do is we're going to combat climate change, and we're going to approve this huge development in Uptown Normal. And this development has to be all electric. There's going to be no natural gas, and the developers. So first of all, the city is trying to develop it like that in and of itself is wrong. No town should be using taxpayer dollars to develop these huge developments. We should sell the land to a private developer and have them develop it.
Yeah.
But they are now mandating that they use all electric. And that's going to probably cost a lot more for whoever develops this and whatever construction company comes in. And in fact, I think it's illegal. There's something called the Energy Conservation Act. You can't regulate people's utilities and things like that. There was the California Restaurant Association. There was a case, and the judge said, oh, no. You're in violation of this federal law. It was an act passed by Congress. You can't demand people via ordinance that they use all electric.
That is insane. That should be a national story, actually, that this town in the middle of Illinois is trying to make things all electric. That's just scientifically stupid. These people, I guarantee you, they've done not 5 seconds of research on
Mhm.
where electricity comes from. We think that electricity is like this magic that you just plug something in and voila, it just works. It doesn't. That requires, in many cases, fossil fuels to be burnt to power plants that give us electricity. And again, that's a perfect example of, well, this will make us feel that we're doing our part in Normal, Illinois, in this tiny little community, to not have emissions go on our tiny, like as if, you know, a town over, or any sort of, you know, emissions happening 10 miles away isn't going to affect the sky over this community. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and to blatantly come out, our mayor, who's been there for years, probably for as long as I've been alive, came out very publicly and said, "Yeah, I know it's gonna cost the taxpayers more because we are paying for the development because the town is developing it." But he says, "I don't care. Climate change is a bigger issue." So that's where we're at with that. I do want to shift gears. Let's talk about Trump. This Fulton County DA. She's got, I think it's like 12 different felonies or something like that that she had posted. Run me through what you've picked up from this indictment that was posted. It was really weird because she posted the charges, then she retracted that. She deleted the post, and she put the charges, what she was charging Trump with, before the grand jury
Yeah.
heard all of the testimony. And like walk me through this process. This is a big deal. This is so against due process. We're not giving Trump due process at all anymore.
No, this is as banana republic-y as you can possibly get, Kat. I was looking at Molly Hemingway, one of my absolute favorite people and one of my favorite regulars on my radio show, her Twitter feed about an hour ago, listing some of these indictments, or I'm sorry, some of these acts. Sounds like racketeering in furtherance of the Trump conspiracy to steal an election. Sounds really nefarious, right? Holding meetings, calling people, asking people to call special sessions of legislators, and setting up phone calls. Act 28, let's read one. On or about the 3rd of December, 2020, Donald John Trump met with Speaker of Pennsylvania House of Representatives Brian Cutler in the Oval Office of the White House and discussed holding a special session of the Pennsylvania General Assembly. This was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. What they're trying to do here, and this is what everyone needs to understand and be clear about, is get their candidate who's running for re-election, Joe Biden, his opponent, his strongest opponent, they're trying to put in jail, in literal jail, before the next election. This has never happened in our country's history. A major candidate, let alone a former president of the United States, a major candidate being threatened with jail, and he's going to go to jail if something doesn't happen. And again, I'm not a lawyer or a legal scholar. I don't know how, but what I read last night and this morning is that President Trump, and by the way, there's like a dozen other people cited in these indictments, have until like next Friday to turn themselves in, or they literally go to jail. Like, that's as it stands right now. I would consume other legal opinions and whatnot to see if there's a way that these people, I mean, Jenna Ellis, I used to talk to her regularly on my radio show. She's indicted as part of this, and she's not even on Team Trump anymore.
Do you know if David Shostokis is?
No, but I know David well. I've spoken with him. Well, not well, but I've spoken with him many times. I know that he helped with this too. I didn't see his name in the indictment, but I could be wrong. Yeah, it is. Here's some other ones. Act 30 on the 3rd day of December, 20th, and the 26th day of December, Donald J. Trump placed a phone call to President pro tempore of the Georgia Senate, Butch Miller. This was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. That's it. That's like one of the 161 acts. They're throwing spaghetti at the wall, seeing what will stick, and they want to put their opponent in jail.
we talked about it earlier. It's like he's, sneaking sneaking candy into a movie theater.
Yeah.
Like that. Like, what are you going to indict him for next?
Right.
Are you going to indict him because he didn't move the iceberg that sunk the Titanic? Are you going to indict him because he has too many indictments? And one thing that I wanted to not correct you, but you said this has never happened in history. Jack Smith has a long history of going after political opposition, not to this degree, because he is a major candidate, Donald Trump.
Right. Not
He's
president,
going to be,
but yeah.
yeah, and he's the former president. That has never happened. But Jack Smith, it was Bob McDonnell, and the Supreme Court laughed at him. They said, whoa, this is way too much power that you've got, Mr. Prosecutor. And they said, this is a blatant attack against the separation of powers here in the United States. 8-0, laughed him out. He continues he's got no shame. Jack Smith has no shame. This Fulton County DA, no shame. She posts, and I mean, that's tampering with the jury.
Yeah.
You're posting the charges prior to the jury even hearing all of the testimony. The way it's supposed to work, the grand jury, they hear the testimony, they make their recommendation to the DA. The DA then posts her charges or says, like, yeah, based off of the recommendation of the grand jury. That's what is supposed to happen, but that's not happening. And
no, and we all have to take a step back too. Like, Alexander Hamilton warned against this in one of the Federalist Papers. This idea of criminalizing certain things to stop political opponents from getting on a ballot or from running against you. Like, this is the type of thing they do in banana republics. And where is the media on this? Where is the CNN's, MSNBC's, New York Times saying, everyone, hold up here a second. You do realize that if Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis or Tim Scott or any of these Republicans, and they better, if this happens, if one of them gets elected, the precedent is set now. We indict Joe Biden. We indict everyone who worked for him if this is what we're doing now. And our people are going to go to jail. This district attorney in Georgia, I mean, this is corruption to the core. This is going to come back to haunt people. And not just haunt people, but it's going to come back and bite people in the butt. And I don't think they understand this. And we need to. Like, if we don't, this sort of thing is just going to be perpetuated and done over and over again.
That's what I tell these never Trumpers. I'm like, for a second, just take yourself and put yourself in Donald Trump's shoes. What if they were doing this to you and you weren't guilty? The due process, there needs to be due process. There needs to be free speech. Governor J.B. Pritzker, he himself came out and said that the case with the January 6th, Jack Smith, his indictments, that's all about you have the right to free speech, but you don't have the right to lie. He said it himself. He said, yeah, which is, you do have the right to lie. Like, this
guy went to Northwestern Law School, J.B. Pritzker. You would think they would teach him that yes, there's nothing in the Constitution that says you cannot lie. But again, that's the whole misinformation thing. Getting back to the fall of 2020, all of the, and that's another thing, and not to go off on a tangent here, but it's definitely related. The fact that on Friday, and I'm sure you talked about this yesterday, on Friday, Merrick Garland put a special prosecutor looking into the Joe Biden scandal that features his son, Hunter Biden. That right away indicts all of the media who didn't report on this in the fall of 2020. The ones who pulled Parler off the internet, the ones who would ban Twitter accounts and Facebook accounts if you even mentioned the story at all. They purposely censored something that was factually true, which we know. I mean, if Merrick Garland is saying, this is something we need to look into, it should have been looked into by the media. And not only did they not look into it and ignore it, they stifled and muzzled anyone who was trying to at the time. That's pure corruption on the highest scale by our media. And that's not being talked about enough either.
Impeach them all. Impeach Merrick Garland, impeach Joe Biden. I say impeach them all. Well, we have to take a break. Mike Coolidge, thanks so much for joining me. Folks, don't forget to go follow Coolidge, Koolidge, on Twitter. I love his tweets. They're good. And Mike, thanks so much for joining the program.
Yeah, we'll see you later this week.
See you later this week at the Illinois State Fair. I'm headed there, folks, on Thursday. So you guys are going to want to check out our Facebook pages. We're going to be going live and talking with some candidates who I see out on Republican Day. We'll be back, and we are going to be talking about a little bit more more about this song. This guy, he created this song. It's called Richmond, North of Richmond. Rolling Stone is out there, of course, attacking him. They're leading the way on the snarky dismissal of this amazing song that's #1 on iTunes. That's next. Hey, y'all, if you are watching right now, go ahead and smash that like button. Like I said, they are trying to teach our youth. They are trying to teach young people that freedom of speech doesn't matter. Due process doesn't matter. I have the screenshot in front of me right now. I'm looking at it right now. The state of Georgia versus Donald John Trump. The case number, I've got the case status. It says open August 14th. This woman, she publishes, this DA, publishes all of these charges against Donald Trump prior to the grand jury deliberating, hearing all of the testimony, and then making the recommendation. She comes out with those charges anyway. Before the grand jury even voted, they were still taking testimony. She tampered with that jury, and they're tampering with the jury. And basically what they were saying by publishing that, and then they deleted it, they retracted it, so they know they were in the wrong. By retracting that, what they're doing here is, or by publishing it, they're saying, hey, you on the jury, we want you to stay on the jury, and we're going to make sure you vote properly. This is the answer that we require. These charges, this is what we want, and you're going to give us this answer. You're going to give us it. And that's very banana republic. It's not supposed to work that way. First, you have the grand jury take all of the testimony. They solicit testimony. The grand jury votes. Then they send it to the DA. The DA then makes their charges based off of the recommendation that the grand jury gave. Bad things are happening in Fulton County. Very bad things. This is banana republic. We are going to be talking about the Maui fires, the wildfires, Donald Trump sending out a heartfelt message to the Maui victims. And then, of course, he slams Joe Biden's response and why he said, questioned why he said no comment and smiled when he was asked about, hey, can we get your reaction to the Maui wildfires, He's on vacation. Meanwhile, these people, the most beautiful place on earth in Hawaii, reduced to cinders. This guy is biking on the beach while these people are digging through the ashes of their shattered community. That's what Joe Biden is doing. Smash the like button if you're watching right now. We're going to get to your comments. At this point, we can expect an indictment weekly for something stupid all the way up until the election. Yes. So what they're doing here, Ryan, is they are throwing spaghetti at the wall and they're hoping something sticks. What's next? Are they going to indict Donald Trump for the McDonald's ice cream machine being broken all of the time? Like, what more can they indict this guy for? And it's ridiculous. And not to mention, like I said, Governor J.B. Pritzker came out and said exactly what this indictment regarding January 6th, Jack Smith and all of his charges with January 6th. Governor J.B. Pritzker came out and blatantly said the quiet part out loud. He said that you have the right to free speech, but you don't have the right to lie. And what we're doing is we're setting a precedent in this country that lying is criminal. And that's wrong. You can't do that. You can't criminalize lying like that and set precedent like that, because who's the purveyor of truth in that situation? Who has the truth? So in a 2012 case, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled on this. Do you have the right to lie if you have the right to free speech? And they've ruled on this already, which is quite funny. Let's not look at court precedent when it comes to this. So there was this guy, he was lying about his military decorations. He might have said that he had a Purple Heart when he didn't or something like that. And He was on trial. The Supreme Court said, no, he has the right to lie. And they ruled that, yes, you have the right to lie in this country. Now, whether Donald Trump lied or not, no, I don't believe he did. I believe that he listened to certain people over other people. And if you read the indictment, Jack Smith, it reads like a college freshman who, is still upset that Donald Trump won the 2016 election. But bottom line, in the indictment, what he says, is a lie is that he didn't listen to the experts when it came to this election being stolen. And Donald Trump says that the election was stolen because he was listening to other people. He didn't listen to Jack Smith's preferred people, but he listened to other people. So Jack Smith is essentially saying, well, because you listened to these people and not my people, then you lie. Like, then you're lying, and we should charge you for that. But then in the same breath, that's how silly this all is. In the same breath, Jack Smith in the third paragraph says that Donald Trump had the right to publicly speak his mind and even publicly lie about the 2020 election, but he's indicting him anyway. It makes no sense. I'm back here. Be sure to smash the like button. Share this out with your normie friends. They're coming after your red meat. Of course they are. Of course they are. They don't want you to have a juicy, delicious steak. I love steak, especially when you sear it on each side. A little bit of salt, a little bit of rosemary, some pepper. Now, what they're trying to do is regulate meat. Leftists, they have been all in on banning meat and replacing meat with substitutes ever since this social media influencer, AOC, called for a ban on cow farts in her Green New Deal. Okay, that's that. Like, they have been all in on getting rid of meat, and there's a strong argument to be made here against that. Hey, meat actually is not bad for the environment. Now, The Economist, the magazine, is sitting there saying that beef emits 31 times more CO2 per calorie of food than tofu does. But by cooking so many cows, humans are cooking themselves too. My God. Look, I think a cow got their hands on a typewriter there over at The Economist, and he wrote this story. He wrote this article in The Economist, this cow. And, PETA, they actually came out with a press release and they were like, cows are individuals. We need to recognize these cows. There was some crash that happened here locally where a bunch of cows died because of a tragic crash. And that's sad, right? It's sad if cows die early, right? And it was sad that there was a traffic incident, but PETA released this press release and they said that they were going to put in a sky message that said cows are individuals too. And I mean, my God, are we going to start putting cows on payroll? Like, over there, I'm in studio, I'm looking over at the cubicles over there. Oh, we got a new coworker today. His name's Mr. Cow. Oh my God. So you guys remember when Kamala Harris wanted to regulate meat? Here's a flashback for you. I'm going to play it. Here's Kamala Harris flashback. This is when she wanted to regulate meat and said that she wanted to regulate meat. You can always see me live in studio, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble. Be sure to smash that like button. Share this video out with your normie friends. Yes, I'm in studio and I'm wearing my Jesus is King shirt. Yes, the world is crazy. And amidst all this uncertainty, we can be certain that Jesus is King. And that's why I'm wearing my shirt today. That's from Rooted Apparel Company. And you can find their link in the description of the YouTube video. Let's take a listen to Kamala Harris. Here we go.
But now more questions for Senator Kamala Harris. So let's go straight to an audience question now. Carolyn Corsant is a lawyer from New York, Senator. She has a question about the impact of certain foods on the environment. Just to give some context here, the United Nations says that livestock cattle, contribute 14.5% of all human-produced greenhouse gases, which is an incredible number. Caroline, go ahead with your question.
Thank you. Climate change has been linked to agriculture and the overconsumption of red meat and also the overproduction of crops. Certain countries have changed their dietary guidelines to reduce the consumption of red meat in light of the impact of the climate change.
Yeah.
If elected, will you be supporting change in dietary guidelines? And then how will you plan on implementing the changes so that people effectively change their diets?
Yeah, I mean, and thank you, Carol, for your work and the question. I think of the point that you're raising in a broader context, which is that as a nation, we actually have to have a real priority at the highest level of government around what we eat and in terms of healthy eating, because we have a problem in America. And we can talk about all that we are now, the subject of this conversation. We can talk about the amount of sugar in everything. We could talk about soda. We could go on and on. So the answer is yes. But I'll also say this, the balance that we have to strike here, frankly, is about what government can and should do around creating incentives and then banning certain behaviors. I mean, just to be very honest with you, I love cheeseburgers from time to time, right? I mean, I just do. And I think that, but there has to be also what we do in terms of creating incentives that we will eat in a healthy way, that we will encourage.
Oh gosh, that's disturbing. So make no mistake, folks. It is happening. Make no mistake. You see what I did there? Make no mistake. They are going to regulate how you how you eat meat. Now, via that be a ban of some kind, or like Kamala Harris just said, they're going to incentivize you to eat tofu instead of steak. So they might just up the cost of steaks. They might just up the costs of red meat and meat altogether. So in the past 3 years, we've seen this. They've regulated how you're supposed to cook in your home. They've tried to ban gas stoves. They've regulate how you're heating the water in your home. They are announcing small business destroying initiatives to regulate the type of ovens restaurants use to make their food. We're seeing it here locally. The town of Normal is forcing these developers, and they're actually developing it. Like they have like let's just sell it to a private developer, okay? Uptown South. Let's just sell it to a private developer. The town should not be in the business of developing out this huge thing. But they have said that this development is going to be all electric, and you better like it because climate change is important to me, says Chris Coos. Is important to me. Okay. They're already regulating how you consume food through mandating certain things when it comes to electricity versus gas. And it's illegal. There's a little something called Energy Conservation Act. Look it up. The courts have said that, hey, you can't be in violation of this via ordinance. Now, that hasn't happened in the town of Normal yet. They haven't created an ordinance, but I'm sure that's coming soon, where they're going to create an ordinance. Hey, if you're going to develop anything in the town of Normal, it has to be all electric. I wouldn't put it past them. Mark my words, today is August 15th. That's going to happen. And that ordinance, I question the legality of that. I question the legality of that. We've already seen it play out in the courts. The California Restaurant Association, they took Berkeley, California to court over that. And they said, whoa, Berkeley, California, you're in violation here of the Energy Conservation Act. This is a federal law. We're going to come back. Scott Robbins joins me next on the Morning Buzz. I've got to get to this one. JB did not get that big eating tofu. Yes. Of course he didn't. Yes. And Kamala Harris always says, yeah, or was saying there that she enjoys cheeseburgers. No. And of course, these mandates, these regulations will not extend to the powers that be that actually place these regulations on us. Okay. That's not going, I mean, I'm sure, I don't know, that Kamala Harris, they have gas powered ovens. I know Jill Biden does. And I wouldn't be shocked if Mayor Chris Goose has a gas oven, if they have gas in their homes, right, to heat their homes. Like the powers that be will never be subject to their own laws and regulations. JB definitely did not get that big from eating just tofu. We'll be back in just a second. You know what? What we need to do is just stop being economically responsible, and we need to address the bigger issue, which is climate change. Your very
Right.
own Mayor Chris Coos said that. Scott Robbins, The Morning Buzz. This is Scott's
What?
takes.
Okay. I mean, seriously.
He's
I mean,
making an all-electric development up in Uptown, so that's all the talk of the town. And it's just like he said
You
it.
know-
He said the quiet part out loud, Scott. He goes, "Well, why would we be economically feasible when we could just combat climate change? It's a bigger issue."
It's a bigger issue than being economically. Here's the thing. If someone can point me to a product that is being subsidized by government, or a product that isn't being subsidized by government, that involves this all-electric weenie stuff, and it's successful, and it's something people want to buy, the free market says, yes, let's embrace this. There isn't one. You can't name one because there aren't any. I mean, there's been some, bumps in popularity with the Teslas and some of the other product, right? I mean, we've seen that. But when has this worked for anybody? It hasn't. It's like all vegan. It's like if people wanted to eat that stuff, they would. They don't. There's a niche market. I mean, you can always satisfy the niche market.
Mm-hmm.
But man, this idea that all of a sudden these are successful propositions, the electric buses, remember that was a big deal for a while?
Oh, yeah. But what they don't tell you, Scott, is that the electric bus company, like the first one that really led the charge on this, going bankrupt. They are going bankrupt right now. They have zero money.
But why are they going bankrupt? Because there's no demand for their product. They push the product out there and again subsidized out the wazoo, and they got no customers. If you got no customers, you got no business. I mean, it just tanks. And you can preach all day about how we need to be environmentally friendly. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you about trying to save the environment or help the environment. I'm all for that. But you can't force feed something on people that they don't want, because it's a money pit, and they all know it. But they don't care because they get the points.
Yeah.
Right.
The ESG score.
Yeah, the ESG score points, and they get to pat themselves on the back, and they get to feel good about themselves. And they also realize their decisions will virtually have no impact on their daily lives at all.
Feels over reels.
It's the same thing we were talking about earlier about this, arming people with Narcan now in these cities and students going back to school. And, that gets me back to the smash and grabs that are going on all over the place. In broad daylight, people just walking in and taking a crowbar to jewelry cases and emptying them out and leaving. There is no downside for your bad choices or behavior. There has to be consequences to bad choices and behavior. If not, if there aren't any, then what's to stop you from doing it over and over and over again? Nothing. We learn that as parents of children. I know you want a cookie 3 times a day for your meal, breakfast, lunch and supper, but it's not going to work that way. We don't do that because that's rewarding a fit they're going to throw. And we just don't do that. So, I mean, this whole idea and notion that somehow that these laws and not penalizing people for their bad behavior, nobody wants anybody to die. Nobody wants that. Nobody.
Yeah,
but the subsidizing of bad behavior by giving away needles and by just allowing people to camp on streets, to defecate on streets, to live their lives that way. And in the meantime, your downtowns are dying. Businesses are going away. People don't want to be around it. I mean, there's got to be some sort of other answer and solution to this other than just allowing it to happen and subsidizing the behavior. Mm-hmm. God, this isn't hard.
And then you were telling me about, is it a city in Illinois? That
Pittsburgh. I was talking about, I read an article about Pittsburgh today.
Oh, with the guns, don't pop each other from 9 to 9?
No. Oh, you want to do, this is North Side, some North Side Chicago group called Native Sons. They've submitted something to their politician friends known as the People's Ordinance, saying people on the North Side of Chicago, they want them to refrain from shooting guns between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. So
that goes back to the arming people with Narcan. Like, why are you
Right.
as government
what are we doing
incentivizing
here?
crime?
Right. So you've got a 12-hour window if you want to shoot people. And you know, this is going to keep that from happening, of course, by just proclaiming it like, hey, you can't shoot a gun between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Well, what's the downside? What are you going to do? You're not going to do anything. It's ridiculous. It's all for show. But I can't even believe we're talking about it today, but we are. USA Today, by the way, also, I was thumbing through some early stuff today. Coffee shops are now racist. There's an article on USA and USA Today that the disparity between races that work at coffee shops is predominantly white people. I would also say, by the way, that there is a disparaging amount of people with tattoos and piercings and pronoun pins too. But that's just me.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So
well, I've told
anyway.
you about the time I got kicked out of a coffee shop here locally. I got kicked out.
What did you wear? What did you have on? You had something on, right?
Yeah, it was a Trump stocking cap. It was
There
just
you
said
go.
Trump 2020 on it. And I didn't even realize I had it on. And I
Right.
couldn't, I was like, do I have
Kicked
something
out.
in my teeth? I was like, what's going on? She wouldn't serve me coffee. And I
You
was like,
got
what?
kicked out.
Yeah, well, I mean, ultimately I had to leave, right? Because I was like sitting there for 30 minutes and I was like,
man.
where's my coffee? They didn't give me my coffee.
No, they're not going to serve you. No. And again, I mean, if I own the business, those people are fired.
Yeah.
When I come in, what do you mean you didn't serve? You know, they're giving you money. You take the money. Idiots. Trump, by the way, indicted again. Did you hear about that, Kat? Have you heard? It's really gone under the radar, hasn't it?
Yep.
They broke into programming last night, by the way. You were probably already asleep, but they broke into programming last night at like 10:20, 10:30 or something. All the networks went live with this DA announcing the charges. So this is the fourth time, by the way, Trump's been indicted. I do have the 3 prior Trump trading cards, indictment cards. So
You're collecting them all.
I'm collect all 4. Yeah. And so now and there's a 5th one on the way. So I've already ordered my 4th one already though. So anyway, worth money at some point.
He's going to be indicted. You know what really peeves me off? That McDonald's ice cream machine is always down.
Yeah.
And somebody needs to answer for those crimes. I think Trump should. Trump should answer for the McDonald's ice cream being down.
I'm sure it's his fault because he knows Joe has an affinity for ice cream and he breaks them on purpose. So Joe can't get his ice cream when he goes through the McDonald's drive-through. Let me just, let me take your premise and just advance it some more, right?
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Yeah.
Rudy
It's
Giuliani.
it's all a conspiracy to keep Joe away from ice cream.
What
You know the good thing about Joe?
morning?
Can I just tell you the good thing about Joe eating ice cream? The good thing is there is absolutely 0 chance of brain freeze. 0 chance.
Ooh, zinger.
All right, yeah. I had to end on a high note. All right, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Talk to you
Kat.
tomorrow, Scott
right.
Robbins. Scott Robbins, that's Scott's Takes. You guys won't want to miss them. If you guys want your belly to start hurting, be sure to listen to Cities 92.9. Grab a green crayon, mark it in your calendars. 8 p.m. tonight. It's Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. Scott Robbins will be back. Speaking of racism, this YouTuber, she says it's racist because she can't film a music video inside of a Target. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. We are going to be back talking about that YouTuber who says, it's racist. I can't believe you guys are so racist. You won't let me film my music video in this Target. Yeah, honey. Well, that's against the store policy. So, the security guard approaches her and says, what are you doing? Well, I'm filming a music video with 30 of my friends behind me. And the security guard is like, you have to get permission first before using a place of business for profit. And she didn't like that. So she got on her Twitter and she goes, this racist Target employee called the cops on me for dancing in Target. So we danced anyway. So yeah, that's Baby Storm is her name. She brought her whole entire dance crew to film a music video. And I'm sorry, but that's against the rules there. We are going to be talking about Donald Trump, how he addressed Maui wildfires Biden would never, because Joe Biden is a scumbag. And he was on vacation. Meanwhile, the people of Maui, Americans, they were sifting through the ashes and they were trying to recover their loved ones, their memories. And Joe Biden's there pedaling away on a bicycle on the beach. And he hasn't given a verbal statement. He's just given like statements on Twitter. He has come out and said that there is going to be $700 given per household to address the disaster. Throw money at the problem, of course. Don't be a human being and get out there and verbally tell them that you're sorry that this is going on and that you're doing everything you can to help them. No, just keep sending money over their way. And meanwhile, and also while we're at it, why don't we just send another $24 billion to Ukraine? So we're going to talk about how Donald Trump gave this very heartfelt message to the people of Maui. And a lot of people have asked me how that fire started. So we're going to get into that because it should have never happened. The power company didn't shut off their power when they were supposed to, because there were hurricanes happening, because it is hurricane season. There were hurricanes happening in Hawaii. And the power company was told, hey, reduce the power that is going through these lines so that way it doesn't start a fire. And they failed to do that. So this is a big lawsuit against this power company. It's called Hawaiian Electric. And they, I think, power about 95% of that island, the Hawaiian island, Maui. So they are in big trouble. But also I want to get into, this, I guess it's kind of speculation, but really it's just logic. Hawaii, for those of you who don't know, is a leftist state, very lefty. Their governor is super lefty. And it wouldn't shock me to find out that they don't allow controlled burns in Hawaii, specifically maybe even this Maui. And what controlled burns do, it gets rid of all of that dry brush, gets rid of all of it. These controlled burns are supposed to prevent wildfires, but leftists are big mad about controlled burns a lot of the time, and they sign ordinances, legislation that forbids people from doing controlled burns in the state. And what that leads to is all of this dry brush building up over time, dead trees building up over time. And what it'll lead to is these massive wildfires. So this is one of the biggest wildfires in the United States. It's the biggest one since 1918. One of the most deadly. We're looking at 93 death toll. Today, it's going to rise most likely. People were running into the ocean to avoid being burned alive. And there were these flame balls that were sparking up out of the wildfire and going into the ocean. So these people were like trying to dodge and duck from these flame balls that were going into the ocean. We're going to talk about it here coming up. If you're watching, be sure to smash that like button. Share this out with your normie friends. React. Why don't you hit the care button on Facebook? Show that you care. I like the care reaction. Pray for those in Maui. So we're going to be back in the 8 o'clock hour talking about that a bit. Rolling Stone. Of course, they're leading this expected. I knew that this was going to happen. This media attack against Oliver Anthony and his song, Richmond, North of Richmond. So if you haven't heard the song, I've got the edited version. Here it cut out a little bit. It does cuss in the song, so we edited out or there's an edited version here where we take out the cuss words. Okay, so here is the song. It's #1 iTunes. He's got another song that's like #9. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for both pay, so I can sit out here and waste my life away, drag back home and drown my troubles away. It's a shame what the world's gotten to for people like me, people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is. living in the new world with an whole soul.
I've been listening to it on repeat. So good. So he's a ginger-haired dude, and he sings this amazing song. And of course, Rolling Stone, as if on cue, is leading the way with the snarky dismissal of Oliver Anthony's song, because too many conservatives like it. You know, this is their thing. When too many conservatives like something or dislike the same thing, the journalism industry, they just are on full-blown attack mode, and they are looking to attack whatever it is that conservatives like, or looking to attack conservatives for disliking something. That's why the corporate media is all in, of course, on these drag queens twerking in front of children, gyrating in front of children with thongs on. You know, it's a clap back to conservatives saying, "Hey, this seems inappropriate." You know, like conservatives are, whoa, 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 I am not cool with the drag queens gyrating in front of young children. And then the journalism industry, they're like, yeah, well, this is totally appropriate. This is fine. You're just a bigot. Good news. Anthony announced that he was performing actually at this farmer's market in North Carolina. He shows up, he reads from Psalms, the book of Psalms. I think it was chapter 37. And wow, I mean, we made the right guy famous. A Christian, somebody who's going to go out there and read the Bible before he performs. So he had a way above average turnout for a guy who nobody heard of this guy a week ago. And he had a huge turnout in North Carolina. He even jammed with Jamie Johnson. Now, I don't know who this is. I looked up some of his music. He's got some classic stuff. I'm a big country fan. I just have never really listened to Jamie Johnson stuff. I've heard of him, but not like actually taken a listen to his music. But he was jamming out with Jamie Johnson in North Carolina. Let's take a listen to how that sounded. Here we go.
And if it looks like we were scared to death, like a couple of kids just trying to save each other, you should have seen it in numbers. A picture's worth 1,000 words, but you can't see what those shades of gray keep covered. You should have
in color. What do you guys think about Jamie Johnson? Throw it in the comments section if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble, and give me a text at 309-451-9299. Now, as we've seen, when a country singer has a hit with Normie America, normal people just living life in America, you know, these people in these crap hole cities run by progressives, they start to lash out because they don't like normal America. And, you know, there's been some low energy trolls out there, specifically this guy. He's like, you know, them fracking regulations ain't nothing but red tape. Don't want to join a union because just want to trickle down economics put in place, right? So he's trying to like create his own song here, and he's like trolling and stuff with this song. And, you know, they're just big mad because this is normal America, and they're not normal, and they're upset that they're not in the club. That's what it boils down to. All right, we are going to be coming back. I've got a story about Donald Trump addressing the Maui wildfires. Meanwhile, Joe Biden isn't. Waste my life away. Yeah, so that's Richmond, north of Richmond. Richmond, north of Richmond. That's the song. If you guys are watching now, go ahead, smash that like button. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm going to go grab myself some more coffee. We're going to be right back. Our young people are being told that free speech doesn't matter, due process, it doesn't matter. Just get Donald Trump. Get Donald Trump. I've got the screenshots right here. I've got the screenshots. It says the state of Georgia versus Donald John Trump. It's got a case number. It's got a case status. It says open. The document is dated August 14th. Now, there's all kinds of charges here. He was in violation of the RICO Act, conspiracy to commit forgery in the first degree, forgery in the first degree, filing false documents, conspiracy to commit impersonating a public officer. There's all kinds of other charges, and it's all related to the alleged attempts to overturn the 2020 election results in Georgia. And it's all got to do with that phone call with Governor Brian Kemp. And this DA, she posts this. This is what's concerning here. She posts these charges briefly online. Then she deleted it without any kind of explanation. And she posted these charges prior to that grand jury hearing all of the testimony and them voting on the matter. How did the Fulton County, Georgia DA have charges before the grand jury even voted? They were still taking testimony. They were still soliciting testimony. The DA, you tampered with the jury. You told them what you were planning to charge Trump on. Like, how do you... This is Banana Republic. It's like, this is what essentially it was. We're gonna make you stay on this jury. We're gonna make you vote properly. This is the answer we want, and this is the answer we're gonna get, jury. You better answer this way. Here's the problem. First, you're supposed to solicit testimony as the grand jury. Then the grand jury hears that testimony. The grand jury then votes. Then they send it to the DA. Then the DA makes their charges based off of the recommendation of the grand jury. This is Banana Republic. There's bad things happening in Fulton County. And I have the receipts. Why did they delete it? They posted it briefly, but then they deleted the charges. They deleted what they were outlining, or what they had outlined that they were going to charge the 2024 GOP frontrunner with. Why take it down? All right, I am going to be getting to that here in just a little bit. This is the Morning Buzz. You can see me live in studio, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Twitter. Be sure to smash that like button. Share this out with your normie friends. Yes, I am wearing my Jesus is King shirt, and I got it from Rooted Apparel Company. Their website is in the description. When there's all kinds of uncertainty in the world, and I'm going to get to the Maui fires here in just a second. When there's all kinds of uncertainty, one thing we can remain certain of is that Jesus is King. Jesus is King. Rooted Apparel. Go check it out. Now, let's get to it. Trump sending this very heartfelt message to victims of the Maui wildfires, and he's slamming Joe Biden's response because Joe Biden, of course, when he was asked for his reaction to the Maui wildfires, he goes, no comment. Okay, we are going to get to that next. Overdose. I guarantee that you or somebody who is overdosed, of some sort of drug addiction, and whether that be in your family or your friend's family, somebody who has either overdosed or has a drug problem, and it needs to be solved. This needs to be solved. I'm going to offer some very simple solutions. There's not a big answer. There's a very simple solution, and the Seattle City Council seems like they can't get it through their thick skulls that the solution is criminalize drugs, lock people up who do drugs, and stop the supply of the drugs at the southern border. So the overdose in this specific county in the nation, and I pulled this county because it's one of the worst, it's increased 65% in 2023, the amount of overdose deaths. So this is a big number. We're going to get to all of that here. Also, a little bit later, do want to talk about this YouTuber crying racism. I thought it was funny. She tried to film a full-blown music video in the middle of a Target, and she was told, hey, you can't do that. And she cries, racism, that's racism. No, honey, that's private company property, and you can't film a music video without getting permission first. So we're going to get to all of that. Donald Trump, his heartfelt message. Here we go. He is addressing the devastating wildfires in Maui, and this has claimed the lives of about 9 Americans. The death toll continues to rise. Very sad. I told you before. I know somebody through some friends of somebody. We're not super close, but her son is over there, and it's just tragic. It's so tragic to even hear about that effect. Hear something like this is affecting Americans. These people are Americans in Maui, and this is the worst wildfire since like 1918, the deadliest wildfire since 1918. And Joe Biden, he
And
was asked
very
about it, and he goes,
importantly, the
No
aftermath is
comment."
going very
And here
poorly
is
with
Donald
the
Trump
governor of the
doing what
island.
Donald Trump
I would
does.
like to
He's a true humanitarian. Let's take a listen to what he wants to tell the people of Maui.
express my sympathy and warmest regards to the people of Hawaii, and specifically all of those who have been so gravely and irreparably hurt by the tragedy of the wildfires in Maui, something the likes of which have seldom been seen anywhere at any time. The death caused by this catastrophic event will be far worse than ever expected now that houses and cars in other areas are being inspected. The sad thing is, it should never have happened. Our government was not prepared, and very importantly, the aftermath is going very poorly with the governor of the island wanting to do nothing but blame it on global warming and other things that just happened to pop into his head. When asked about it today, as he was getting into a car, perhaps coming home from the beach, where he has been spending a great deal of time, crooked Joe Biden, the most incompetent president in the history of our country, with a laugh and a smile, said he had no comment on the death and the tragedy. To say no comment is oftentimes fine, but to be smiling when you say it, especially against such a tragedy as this, is absolutely horrible and unacceptable. It is a disgraceful thing that Joe Biden refuses to help or comment on the tragedy in Maui, just as he refused to help or comment on the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
In any event, hopefully everyone will be able to pull together so that a horrible situation does not get even worse.
Yeah, it's bad in Hawaii. And, where was Joe Biden? He's on vacation. One of the most beautiful places on earth, Maui, Hawaii, reduced to cinders. And this dork, Joe Biden, he's out there on vacation, on his bike, pedaling down the beach. Well, meanwhile, these people are digging through the ashes of their shattered communities. This is the deadliest U.S. wildfire since 1918. And some of y'all have asked me, Kat, how did the fire start? Well, there is a lawsuit against the Hawaiian Electric Company because they were told, hey, down your power lines, make sure that the power doesn't run through them so much because we are expecting some high fire, dangerous conditions because of this hurricane that's passing through Maui. So these poor people, they're dealing with wildfires, hurricanes at the same time. And Hawaiian Electric, they supply 95% of the state's power. And in the lawsuit here, it says inexcusable, kept their power lines energized during the forecasted high fire dangerous conditions. So one thing I also want to say is, I'm no scientist, but I know that controlled burns are a good thing and that they reduce the risk of massive wildfires because let's think about this logically here. If you burn up all of the brush, dead trees, things like that, and you do that in a controlled way, then that reduces the risk of that happening naturally. It just does. That's the science. And leftists, they hate science. Men can be women, women can be men. Masks stop the transmission of COVID-19. Right? They hate science. And I wouldn't doubt that these leftists in Hawaii, it's a left-leaning state. It's very leftist governor. He's blaming global warming. I wouldn't be shocked if they got rid of controlled burns, outlawed them, and that might have contributed to a lot of this, and now the high winds, yes, the power lines, yes. But how much of this dead brush was on that island because there are no controlled burns? I wouldn't be shocked because leftists, they're like, controlled burns, carbon emissions, that's what they think. And they're not true environmentalists. They are against no-till. They're against tillage for our Illinois farmers, and we all saw the pile up on I-55, which I think could have been prevented had we not had these green weenie policies in place where it prevents our farmers from tilling up their land and keeping it from getting dusty. Like, I'm no scientist, but like, let's think about it. Let's step back and think about this logically for a second. All right, so Joe Biden, he has announced that these people are going to be getting $700 per household. I think they have to apply through FEMA, something like that. So he hasn't come out with any kind of verbal statement. He has mainly been communicating over X regarding the Maui wildfires. Do want to shift gears? Let's talk about it. The new data that has revealed these opioid overdoses increasing 65% in just 2023. It's one of the most populous counties in Washington. The overdose deaths, they have already been tracked to surpass the 2022 high records, like record high 2022 overdose deaths. We're on track to surpass that in this county and probably counties everywhere. It's just I pulled this one because it's the worst in the nation. So Seattle and King County Public Health, the county's first responders, they all responded to 760 opioid overdose calls just in the month of July. So just in the month of July 2023, EMS crews responded to 760 overdose calls. And we're looking at 65% increase in overdose deaths in 2023 in comparison to 2022 in this Seattle King County. So from January to the end of July of this year, we're looking at 5,000 overdose calls. Compare that to last year, same time frame in 2022, 3,000 overdose calls. The Seattle Fire Department, they say that a lot of times they're treating these patients multiple times a day, the same patients on the same day. They get called out there and they overdose multiple times a day. Why? It's because they approved things like this. Teenagers, the Washington State Health Care Authority has launched this campaign where these teenagers are equipped with things like Narcan and naloxone, and these are drugs that counteract overdoses. And they even wear these little buttons that read, "I carry Narcan" or "I carry naloxone." So that's something that they've put in place. And it's like this. If you just get a dose of Narcan, if there's little teenagers running around shooting you up with Narcan after you overdose, what's the incentive to stop? Because then, like, you can just get high over and over and over and over again, and you're just going to get hit with Narcan. Like, there's no incentive to stop because we know it's not criminal. So get this, just this past June, the Seattle City Council rejected legislation that would have empowered the city attorney to prosecute drug possession and drug use, public drug use. So the council decriminalized possession and public drug use because they did not vote for this legislation that would have criminalized it and allowed the city attorney to prosecute drug possession and public drug use. So there's this city council member that I want to talk about today. His name is Andrew Lewis. Hack. He's a hack. And this should serve as a reminder. These city council members, they are instrumental in the fall of communities. So almost single-handedly, this guy created the problem because he was the prosecutor in this city, and he released a lot of high-profile offenders. He released a lot of offenders, gave them slaps on the wrists, and now he's on the city council, and he's the reason why the vote failed, because they were thinking he swung his vote. They were thinking he was going to vote for the legislation that criminalized drug possession and drug use, but it turns out that he swung his vote and he actually voted against that legislation that would have criminalized drugs. And here he is. I'm just going to play it here for you, talking about how he thinks that, magically just one day the drug problem is going to go away because of all of these cutesy programs. And I'm sorry here, Andrew, but that's not how the real world works. It's reals over feels, my dude. Reals over feels. So let's take a listen here to our boy Andrew Lewis
In our
talking about how he swung his vote
every
to
waking
not criminalize drugs.
hour of my time on this council dais and in service to the city to help downtown recover from that crisis. I fought with the former mayor to fully fund Just Care, and we removed encampments. We resolved encampment locations in the downtown center of this city in a way that centered everybody's interests in our parks and our open spaces without the need to criminalize open public use. We are working on the Third Avenue project right now on Third Avenue.
There's no need. There's no need to criminalize drugs. Like, did these people not go through the DARE program? Drugs are bad. There's very simple solutions to these problems, folks. Criminalize drugs. Stop giving these people the incentive to do drugs. There's nothing stopping these people from shooting up day in, day out if there's a bunch of teenagers walking around saving their lives with Narcan. And we need to stop the supply at the southern border. Very simple solutions to this fentanyl problem and to this opioid crisis that we're going through. Very simple. We're going to come back. She's crying racism. Racism! No, it's not racist. It's target policy. You can't make a music video on public or on private property at a private company and make money, make profit off of that. You can't do that. But she thought that she was entitled to make her music video in the middle of a Target. We're going to be talking about that here next. Plus, I do want to talk maybe a little bit about the Chris Coos coming out and saying that he didn't really care about, how much money it takes to build this development. He just really cares about climate change. That's next. Good morning, friends. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. If you're watching right now, go ahead and smash that like button. Share this out with your normie friends. Rooted Apparel. That is what I am sporting today. I will be wearing Rooted Apparel shirts. I'm going to be getting more today after the show. I'm very excited. I'm going to get more for my friends too. This is Jesus is King. And like I say that all of the time. A lot of times I just say quick prayers, right? We're supposed to be in continuous prayer. And I say quick prayers like Jesus is King, Jesus come, Jesus come, Jesus come. I believe he's coming back. I believe he's coming back. I believe in the resurrection. I believe it. I believe it. So Jesus is King shirts. You can use the promo code CAT, CAT, for 20% off all your Jesus King tees. So be sure to do that. Their link is in the description of the video. Anytime that you don't agree with their agenda, they call it racism. Exactly. And this little girl, I call her little because she's such an idiot, but really, in all actuality, she's probably like my age, 24 or something. She's supposed to be this rising music star. I don't see how. Her music is crap, but she got a lot of backlash. So this song is called "This City Is a Graveyard," and she got a lot of backlash for originally performing this music video in an actual graveyard. Like, respect the dead, lady. So she's in there, dancing on all kinds of gravestones and grave sites, and it's like, this is very distasteful. So she got a lot of backlash from that. So she switched locations, and she thought the best location would be a Target, I guess. So she goes into this Target with like 30 plus people, and she starts to film an entire music video. You can't do that. It's private property, and you have to get permission for that kind of thing. And I mean, I understand if she didn't know, but like when she was approached by the security guard, she just said, I'm going to claim that this is racism and I'm going to dance anyway. So instead of actually sitting down and listening to what the security guard was telling her, like, hey, this is a safety issue, this is a fire code hazard, and things like that, we can't have you dancing here in the middle of the store with 30 plus people. Instead of like sitting and listening and being a human being and reacting to what he was telling her, she decided to play stompy foot and be a little brat and continue to sing and dance in the store. Now, I want to point this out. A Christian rapper, he's pro Trump. He did this song where it was boycott Target, and it was a music video. So, what he did, he went to Target and he went after hours. So he filmed the music video after hours. And in fact, he might have even paid some sort of money to film there, uh, paid the store for their time to allow him to go in and film this music video. But he got all kinds of permission beforehand. So it can be done. It's not that it can't be done. If you really want Target in your music video, then you need to ask for permission. These people just think that they're elitists or that they are entitled. They think that they are entitled to this thing. Um, and when I say these people, it's not anything to do with the melanin in your skin. It's just, I don't even really think it's an age thing. I just think that there's a group of people, white, black, 60, 50, 15, 20. I find it more to be this age group of 15 to 25. Um, but they think that they're entitled to everything. There's just selfish people out there. And I'm sorry if this is hard for you, but you're a selfish person and you're living an I focused life. Me, 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 me. Think about others. And what's really tragic about this whole thing is most likely the security guard who said, hey, you can't film here is going to lose his job because it's Target and it's a global corporation. And God forbid you tell somebody with more melanin in their skin that, hey, you're kind of going against Target policy right now. God forbid. So we're going to talk about that story. Plus, Chris Goose, it's a local story. I wanted to hit this one. We did some more digging on it. We've got to do some more digging on it. I am calling it now. I think that there's going to be an ordinance out there. Where the town of Normal is going to try to do some sort of ordinance that makes it or makes it to where or bans really your bans electric or gas. So that's what we're gonna do here coming up in just a little bit. Bans a gas and goes all electric. So we'll be back in just a bit. A left-wing magazine. They don't want you to eat steak. They want you to eat tofu instead, okay? So get rid of the steak. That delicious steak with a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, maybe some rosemary, some thyme, and just a butter bath. Slowly cook it, crusty on each side. Ooh, I love steak. But I'll tell you who doesn't like steak, The Economist. They are a leftist magazine, and they have deemed meat to be public enemy number one. And they are calling for regulation when it comes to your red meat because This is the number one rule. And I've noticed this, right? This is the number one rule. If you enjoy something, progressives, they want to take it or they want to ruin it. Okay, that is the number one rule of the Democrat Party. If you like it, then they want to take it or they want to ruin it in some sort of way. We're going to get to that story here coming up on The Buzz. As always, I'm live in studio. You can see me. I can interact with you via the comment section. You can even text in at 309-451-9299. I'm on Rumble, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. You can type in your and be sure to follow the page, The Morning Buzz with Kat. That would greatly help. That would help me out greatly. So, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's Kat Peterson 929. Now, before we took the break, we were talking a little bit about fentanyl overdoses, and opioids and things. And I told you, look, the way to get ahead of this problem is to criminalize drugs. Criminalize it. Okay. If you are using fentanyl and shooting up in the street, I'm cuffing you and I'm throwing you in prison. Okay. That's very simple solution. Then we stop the supply. We stop trafficking, allowing drug cartels to traffic over fentanyl. Very simple solutions. The Seattle City Council, though, they rejected legislation that would have empowered the city attorney to prosecute drug possession and public drug use. They're also equipping teenagers with little Narcan needles, and they're just going around counteracting these overdoses, which, yes, I don't want anybody to die. But we shouldn't be incentivizing overdoses because that's exactly what that does. Because if I'm a junkie and if I'm looking to get high, I'm going to keep getting high because I know a little teenager is running around here and he's going to shoot me up with a dose of Narcan and I can just do it over and over and over and over again. And that's not me saying that. That's the fire department in Seattle. They said that they'll go and they'll respond to the same patients multiple times a day on the same day for opioid overdoses. They'll respond to multiple or they'll respond to the same people. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this YouTuber. She's crying racism because she took an entire dance crew and music crew. She's making a music video. So she goes into Target with 30 plus people, and she was told that she couldn't do it. The security told her, they said, hey, you can't do this. If you don't stop, we're going to have to call the cops. So nice about it in the video. And the security guard, the reason why she's crying racism is because the security guard had less melanin in his skin than this baby Storm is what she goes by on Twitter. And she tweets this out. She goes, this racist Target employee called the cops on us for dancing in Target. So we danced anyway. So they're approached, right? And they were told, hey, we're going to call the cops. And they were nice about it. They said, like, hey, this is a safety violation, like a fire hazard, things like that. You could have gotten into way more trouble than you did, Baby Storm, but they were nice. So apparently this Baby Storm character is an up-and-coming singer, and she's shooting this music video. It's called The City is a Graveyard. So originally, this is hilarious, but also not. It's very disrespectful. She's in this graveyard and she's trampling all over the grave sites and things like that. And she's videotaping herself in this graveyard. And, apparently that's just so shocking that people felt that was tasteless. It was very distasteful, very classless. Have some respect for the dead. Okay, Baby Storm. And I'm not sure why she decided Target was the place to go film this song. I'm not sure what Target has to do with the lyrics of this song, but I really don't care. But the way things work professionally, I do care about that because this is a private company on private property, and you have to get permission before using somebody else's place of business for profit. Okay, like that's how this works. You schedule time when the store is closed. And you're able to get your production crew in there and film. And I would even shoot after hours, maybe, to avoid any kind of fire hazard. So that actually happened. We have a Christian rapper here, and I love this song, so that's why I'm going to play it this morning. He, months ago, when we were all boycotting Target, he created this music video inside a Target. And this video or this music skyrocketed on iTunes. He's a well-known Christian rapper. I forget his name. I gotta look up his name. But I like him a whole lot. I actually saw him live in Peoria one time for Winter Jam. We took the youth group out there and it was a lot of fun. But this is him in his song. And as you can see, if you were watching on the stream or on the YouTube, Facebook, you can see the music video. They are in a Target, but this was done after hours and they paid the store for their time.
Attention all shoppers. There's a cleanup on every aisle. Target is targeting your kids. They put a target on my back, but they targeting your kids. They don't even need to ask, cause you all know what it is. Yeah, that's why I keep a strap, and I'm always by my beds. This agenda gotta stop. Yeah, you know we gonna win when they target, yeah, they target and target, yeah, they target kids. Target, yeah, they target and target, yeah, they target. You know they targets they're wrong, trying to play with the kids.
So there's a little bit of the song for you, so that way you understand, right? I love that song. It's really good. It skyrocketed on iTunes at the time of it coming out. But look, just remember that this is no racial component to it whatsoever. You're all just entitled, rude little children. They're about my age. They're all probably about in their 20s who think that they can do what they want. This is a private company. They asked you to leave and to not film inside the store, that it was a fire hazard you were creating. Okay. And what the really sad thing is I won't be shocked to find that this security guard gets fired for doing his job. After all, this is Target and it's a publicly traded global company, global corporation. And not letting a double marginalized person, black and woman, do whatever she feels like isn't really all that equitable. And it's very problematic for these global corporations. Yeah, so we're going to be back. I've got to tell you about how they want to get rid of steak and they want you to eat tofu instead. I wonder if JB Pritzker eats tofu. I like this comment, David Paul Blumenshine, who you can subscribe to, the DPB show. He's on Sunday from 1 to 3, a live show. David Paul Blumenshine, he tweets out, or he comments, JB did not get that big eating just tofu. Yeah, and that's the thing. They don't want you to eat meat, but I promise you they're going to continue to eat their steaks and their cheeseburgers. I'll be back on the other side. This is The Morning Buzz. Hey, if you're watching right now, go ahead and smash that like button. Smash the like button. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to David Paul Blumenshine. Everybody is saying that they really like my shirt, and I knew I was going to get a bunch of reaction to the shirt. You guys can use the promo code CAT, C-A-T, at checkout for 20% off all of your Jesus is King tees. So if you want this shirt, you get 20% off by using the promo code CAT at checkout. And that's Rooted Apparel Company. You can find their link in the description of this video. Love them. They're great. Let's get to your comments. A 20-ounce ribeye at the Beef House in Covington, Indiana. Phenomenal. Just had it last weekend. I love steak. Now, I never had a steak, or I never had like a steak as good as the one that I have a friend who has a sous vide, and I never even knew what that was until I met this friend. And they have this sous vide, or he has the sous vide, and you sous vide the steak, then you brown it on both sides after you sous vide it, and it is so good. It changes the way I cook steak now, and it's so good. Jamie Johnson, the man. I don't know about you, Kevin Lauer, but Kevin Lauer, if you're watching, I've got to ask you this question. Is this song just trapped in your head? It's the Richmond, North of Richmond song. I love that song. It's so good. I love it. And I've been listening to it on a loop for the past couple of days because it's like our anthem. It's like the normie American anthem, and I'm so for it. And he was with Jamie Johnson. I didn't really know who Jamie Johnson was. I'm sorry. But apparently he's this big country legend, and he actually got to jam out with Oliver Anthony who made that Richmond, North of Richmond song, which was shot up in the iTunes charts. And of course, as if on cue, Rolling Stone, a lot of these people are saying that he is a right-wing extremist. The personal attacks against this guy are probably going to ramp up. They're going to try to find something on him. The journalismers are working full time to try to figure out, if he liked a meme, and they're going to try to shame him. He just got a Twitter literally like last week, so he hasn't been on Twitter. So it's going to be a little bit hard because this normie American doesn't have social media like a big social media presence. So they're going to have to go way back into the Wayback Machine when they're trying to find dirt on him. If you guys are watching right now, go ahead and smash that like button. I so do appreciate you watching. We are going to also be chatting about Mayor Chris Coos. Like the video if you're watching from Normal, or if you live in Normal, comment. Chris Coos, he's out there saying that climate change is the biggest thing that we have to deal with. And he doesn't care if that means we aren't economically responsible anymore. I mean, that's essentially what he said in the council meeting. Now, climate change activism is taking the front burner when it comes to the Normal Town Council. So Mayor Chris Coos, he was interviewed, and he said governments at every level will need to respond faster to climate change. I think that's the direction we need to go in the long term. I think that's something we should build into our zoning code for the future development, So he says that they're going to do this, and that is illegal. And of course, WGLT, the people who are interviewing this guy, they didn't press him on this, but I will. That's illegal, possibly. Now I'm no attorney, but I can read the law and court precedent. So Berkeley, California, they've dealt with this when the Restaurant Association there in California took this to court, and the judge said, you all are in violation of the Energy Conservation Act. So I love how people are like, playing Stompy Foot, Kathleen Lorenz, Scott Preston. They're like, yeah, I'm against this. I'm against this. Okay, that's great. But let's go a step further. This is actually not legal. What y'all are doing, I don't think it's legal. Like, at least address this, address this court case. And another thing that I absolutely love from local politicians is they're going to sit there and they're going to say, well, this plan, it was recommended, and it was recommended by, these standards, the national standards, or FIAS standards, right? And FIAS, it's like, ooh, what's FIAS standards? FIAS, all it is a non-government like organization, and it's founded by a German architect. So she has no ties to Bloomington Normal. This is not a nonprofit organization of interest. This is just a global nonprofit. And they've created their standards where you are all electric and no gas. And, let's just have a little bit of critical thinking skills. Why would we adopt the standards of this nonprofit organization? Who gives a rat's butt about this nonprofit? Nobody. Like, this is not a local nonprofit. This isn't a local climate activist nonprofit. Why do we care so much about these standards? They say, well, we have to be in compliance with these standards. Why? No, you don't. I just wish that these corporate journalismers weren't such idiots, and that they actually did some journalism once in a blue moon. So once in a while, just once in a while, pretend like you're a journalist. Pretend like you care about the community you live in. So Chris Goose is doing this interview with some corporate journalismers, and he talks about how government at every level needs to respond faster to climate change. And during a council meeting, he legit says that he doesn't care really about what's economically feasible. What's really important is climate change. So he said the quiet part out loud, folks. They don't care about the money. They don't care how much money this development is going to take. Being that it's all electric, and they approved it to be all electric, no gas. I I don't even know if that's legal, to be honest with you. And he says this in this interview. He says, I think that it's the direction we need to go in the long term. I think that it's something we should build into our zoning code for future development. So that's happening. Mark my words, August 15th, the town of Normal is going to try to change the code to make it to where they are banning natural gas from all future developments. All future developments in the town of Normal, they will not have natural gas. They might even go as far as to get people to change over from natural gas to electric. So if you own a business in Normal, if you have a restaurant in Normal, get rid of your gas stoves. That could be coming. And I don't know if that's necessarily legal, because there is a little case that happened over in Berkeley, California. We have a California Restaurant Association suing that city over an ordinance making natural gas pipelines illegal to install. Uh, so the judge said, Berkeley, California, y'all are in violation of the Energy Policy Conservation Act because the ordinance indirectly regulates appliances that use natural gas. So the judge was very clear about that. And, if these people weren't so worried about their political careers, you would think that they'd bring this up. No, the people who are playing Stompy Foot and pretend like they're really against this, but really what they're doing is playing both sides so that way they can get campaign money from both Republicans and Democrats. Uh, what they're doing is they're not bringing up, hey, this is actually not quite legal or it could be illegal. Let's just bring this up. Let's bring it to light. But they won't because that would actually mean serious consequences for the town of Normal. That would be of a big problem because you could have a lawsuit on your hands. And if you own a normal restaurant, you might have a case here because there's precedent. And there is a little something called the Energy Policy Conservation Act. And what really bothers me is the weakness, like just so weak about it. They're like, yeah, I don't really think that it's like a good idea. We shouldn't be pushing that kind of agenda. Okay. Then why even entertain this at all? Where were you? So I guess there was a recommendation that the town require all of these buildings for this new development uptown south to just be all electric, no gas. And, this recommendation comes from a little place called FIAS. FIAS, what is that? Well, FIAS has some standards, and Scott Preston said that these standards make everything electric, and their standards are that you do all electric. And this was a recommendation from them. And he says that, the plan is supposed to be FIAS standard compliant. Who cares about FIAS? FIAS, if you look it up, it's a non-government organization, some sort of nonprofit, founded by some sort of German architect. This isn't even a local climate activist nonprofit organization. This is coming from God knows where. She's just she's a German architect that founded this nonprofit organization. And for some odd reason, these people are swearing by the FIAS standards as if it's gospel. It's like, no. Why are we entertaining a nonprofit, not even from the not even from the United States? Why are we entertaining this? FIAS standards? Oh, I don't care. like, and it's just, I'm not shocked. I wish I could say I was shocked. I'm really not shocked by the comments here from Chris Coos and where he said, yeah, it's just not. We just won't be economically responsible anymore. The climate change is a more important issue. And I'm not shocked that the corporate journalismers didn't even bother asking Chris Coos, yo, bro, is that even legal? I'll be back. I just don't understand the stupidity and the ignorance of people. Yes. Well, and I don't even know if it's stupidity, more so like, so for example, these two council members who say they're against the project, okay, but you're not willing to go that extra step and question the legality of this ordinance or the legality of forcing this development to ban natural gas and forcing it to do only electric. You're not questioning the big problem, like the elephant in the room. Can you even do this? And we're not even questioning, hey, why is the town even developing this at all? Maybe we should just sell the land and let the private developers develop something like this. Um, why are we dictating what should be in Uptown Normal um, as a town and paying for it via taxpayer money? And not to mention that we have all of these other developments, the underpass, Uptown 1.0, the Trail East, Trail West, not to mention all of that. So yeah, RT, you're right. I don't understand. I don't think it's necessarily stupidity. I think it's literally actively trying to avoid pointing out the elephant in the room because these people are worried about their campaign donations. They want to play both sides because they want to get money from both sides. This is the uniparty at work. They're not going to come out strongly against this, and they're not going to dare question the legality of this issue because that would mean that you're working on behalf of the people and you're representing the people rather than lining your pockets with both sides. Uh, so these people don't understand the electrical grids, and they can't handle all. I was thinking about that. So why in the world is it that in our education system that we aren't taught how electricity works? I think it's by design that we don't know. So I actually went through a crash course just about a year ago or so of how electricity truly works. And a majority, I would say, of Americans don't know how it works and how the power lines work and things like that. And um, most Americans probably don't know our electricity comes from fossil fuels. Only 5% come from wind and solar and anything else. So there you have it, RT. You're just laying it out for them. As always, I'm wearing the Rooted apparel. I will be wearing these in the show. You can use the promo code CAT, CAT, for 20% off all your Jesus is King tees. Rooted Apparel, their link is in the description. So go visit their website to get your teas. This is a great conversation piece. So I love being in the grocery store and then somebody coming up to me and saying, "Oh, you're a Christian." And I'm like, "Yeah, let's talk about the gospel together." And we start talking about Jesus. So uh, start talking about the King, Jesus. When there's all kinds of uncertainty, it's wonderful to know that there is something that is certain, and that is Jesus is King. We are going to be coming back. I do want to talk about this song, Richmond, North of Richmond. Let's actually share this with you because I want to hear the song and I want to end the show with it today. It's a good song. It's in my head and I can't get it out. Ugh. Richmond, North of Richmond. We're going to play it from the beginning because I love it. Okay. Now he is facing all kinds of backlash. They're saying that he's a religious bigot or a religious zealot because he read the Book of Psalms before performing in North Carolina at this little farm market. So we're going to be talking about that.
I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for both pay, so I can sit out here and waste my life away, drag back home and drown my troubles away. It's a shame what the world's gotten to for people like me, people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is living in the new world with an whole soul.
There was Richmond, North of Richmond. That's by Oliver Anthony, who I'm not going to be shocked if he is subject to the corporate journalismers and their rage. So phase one is always dismissing the song. And we see that here in Rolling Stone. They were the first media content creator to review the song, and they're dismissing it. They're like, the people on the right like this song. It's the right's new anthem or whatever. Phase two is always the personal attacks. So they're going to do the digging on his social media account. So it's going to be kind of hard for these corporate journalismers because he didn't have a Twitter account until like last week. And the usual plan is to find something mean he wrote on Facebook 10 years ago or something like that, or possibly even he liked a meme that was mean 10 years ago, and they're going to try to like shame him. So journalismers, they're going to be showing up at his events, asking him political questions. They're counting on him not to be savvy enough to answer those political questions because, oh, he's a singer and not a politician. And they're going to be posting selectively edited answers out of context, and then they're going to all revel in their virtue and in their own fatulence, because LOL, we got another one. We got him. So that's what they're going to do, these corporate journalismers. I know that they're going to be like, oh yeah, our virtue signaling, and we got another one. Newsflash, corporate journalismers, that didn't work on Jason Aldean, and it's not going to work on Oliver Anthony. It's just, it won't work. It won't work. I love that song. You guys have a great rest of your day. Be sure to find me on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Twitter. Search YouTube Cat Peterson 929 and subscribe to the channel. If you want more content, always visit cities929.com. Check out prior podcasts, videos, and follow me on Twitter, Katrina M. Peters 1. That's on Twitter. So you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye. I love you.